Throughout all the pandemic, the Tories maintained since their, again, 2019 election victories to have a very, very high poll ratings, or if not, just ahead of Labour. They haven't so far dipped below that Labour vantage point, or they've managed to just keep ahead in the polls. And recently, before this one, they were about 11 points ahead. However, it must be stressed that continuing this, the Tories have had continuous failure after failure after failure. And a lot of people have put especially their most recent successes, down to what they call the vaccine bounce. And we saw that at the local elections, that a lot of people felt that voting for Boris, and especially in the Hartlepool by-election, a lot of people did say that the reason they did vote for Boris was because of that vaccine bounce. So it definitely does have an effect, and it definitely was a thing. But as we always said, that can't last forever. And of course, as more and more stuff comes out of just how bad, how incompetent not only Boris is, but indeed the rest of his cabinet of, well, wastefuls and, absolute failings that they continue to put out, we are left with a continuing situation of we have an absolutely awful government that's somehow managing to maintain a very, very high public approval, much because of the vaccine bounce. And now it looks like if this is the first, then this could be maybe the collapse of these polls. And one of the things that we know the Tories are very interested in is these polls. And the potential then becomes, is it worth keeping Boris in charge? Because we know, even from, Dominic Cummings, if Dominic Cummings is to be believed, then the people behind the curtain might not want to keep Boris in charge. And even the more moderates who got booted out by essentially the far-right coup that happened in the Tory party to get rid of Theresa May, and indeed much of the moderates, they themselves outside the party could plot themselves something to get themselves back into control. Of course, I don't think we would see that until especially another general election, but we could have to see, and it would definitely point the way in direction to which the Conservative Party will go in the future, where they go more back to being more like a moderate David Cameron type policies, or will they go even more harder right? And I think they're going to go more harder right, especially with the current people in charge. But before we have a look at these new polls, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. So, this comes from the London Economic. And the title is Johnson Vaccine Bounce Fades as the Tories Slide in the Polls. So, the Conservatives' healthy run in the polls on the back of the successful vaccine rollout seems to be coming to an end, a new study has revealed. A survey for by Redfield and Wilton Strategies now found that the majority of Brits now view the Prime Minister as dishonest, inconsistent and disorganised. Just 9% of all voters and 16% of all Conservative supporters strongly approved of Mr Johnson's performance in office. By contrast, however, 26% say that they strongly disapprove. His overall approval rating and the proportion of people in favour minus those against now stands at -6, down from the +9 just 3 months ago, when the government was revelling in the success of the vaccine rollout. And Mr Johnson's ratings hit +39 at the start of the COVID crisis, but fell to -11 in the autumn as public scepticism has grown about the pandemic's response grew. Asked about their views on the Prime Minister, they changed since he took office. 2 years ago, 34% they They now think less of him, with 18% saying that their opinion has improved. Question on how he has performed in specific policy areas, voters gave him a rating of -12 on the pandemic, -2 on the economy, -7 on the NHS, and this is the important one, -3 on Brexit. And 40% of those polled predicted the Prime Minister would leave office within the next 2 years, and another 27% said that he would leave within 2 to 4 years, and just 13% believing that he will survive past 2025. So, ultimately, this points to a very, very interesting poll numbers in itself. I mean, those numbers speak for themselves. Opinion against not only Boris and his current, well, Conservative crew is definitely changing. I mean, when we go to his numbers, where are they? There we are. So, -12 in the pandemic. That's good because we know that they have failed completely on the pandemic. So that is good and does show that it is getting through to people that they have failed on the pandemic. -2 on the economy. Overall, at the moment, there hasn't been too much talk about the economy because the pandemic has dominated the news cycle, really. So when things start to get back to normal and the economy starts to fail and falter, as it will, like I say, the ABCs of Brexit will come in and hit us like a tidal wave. That's austerity, Brexit, and COVID. They're going to hit us like a complete tidal wave. So we know that is coming. So we can see already that a number of people are already thinking about the economy. -7% on the NHS. Again, the Tories promised so much on the NHS, and yet we've seen throughout the pandemic, and especially the rise in waiting lists, and even then, even Sajid Javid came out and said that he thinks there's something about 7 million people who have put off not going to the hospital or getting stuff done because of the pandemic. So after the pandemic, they're going to hit the waiting list as well, which is going to cause even more pressure on the NHS. And again, remember that the primary focus group now of the Conservatives is people at least in their 60s. So that's not going to appeal to them if the waiting lists for the NHS are so long. And then the important one, -3 on Brexit. And I've said really since the beginning, unless something massively monumental, stupidly happens, who knows? Public opinion on Brexit won't change that fast. It will change slowly over time. And that's very interesting that there is now that -3 on Brexit. So public opinion will change slowly but surely, but it will change. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you everyone who supports me that way. And of course, please do keep on remembering to wear your masks and think about social distancing when you're out there, because the virus is still out there. And of course, see you all next time.